Hi guys, I'm Laura Vitale, and on this episode of Laura in the Kitchen, I'm going to show you how to make a phenomenal, delicious, like sesame, yummy, Asian style salad that you're going to love. If you follow me on Instagram, you know we have been doing 7 days of salads where I share a salad with you every single day. This is going to be one of them that I share. I wanted to make an extended video because I know that people are going to ask for the recipe in details for the dressing, and I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to talk about how to make the most perfect, juicy, delicious grilled chicken breast, because I feel like it's one of those things that people get really wrong. And chicken breast is so lean and can get really dry really quickly. And so I'm going to show you some tips. I'm going to give you some tips that are going to help you immensely. I did a whole video on this in my reels on Instagram, and you guys loved it, and you practically begged for an in-depth video. Okay, so actually before I even touch the chicken, I'm going to work on the marinade, because once I touch the marinade, I don't have to touch anything else. So let me grab my zester, which, funny enough, I just put it back here. Why? I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and grate some garlic. Now, there are a couple of really important key notes here about when cooking chicken breast. Like I mentioned, chicken breast is extremely lean, okay? So what does it need? It needs acid. This time we're using lime juice. I use lemon often. Sometimes I'll do vinegar. Careful if you're using balsamic, because balsamic is really concentrated and burns really quickly. It needs lemon so that it can break down that protein and make sure it doesn't become tough as it cooks, because like I said, there's no fat. I'm going to use a whole lime because I've got quite a bit of chicken. And when you grate garlic, you know, it gets really intense. You need acid. And what else do you need when it comes to chicken breast? You need fat. It needs fat. It's screaming for it. There's none of it in there, so you need to give it some fat in order for it to really become tender and juicy and delicious. I'm using a couple of tablespoons of olive oil, which is perfect, and then just use seasoning of your choice. Now, this is, like I said, a very simple, basic marinade that just has the very key, crucial things, like I said, acid and fat. If you wanted to jazz it up and add different things, do it. I do all the time. You can do different seasonings and just take it all over the world depending on what you add. You're going to mix this up because this is your marinade. This is what is going to flavor your chicken, but also tenderize it and keep it really moist. Now, let's talk chicken breast. I kept a couple here to show you because this is really important. Do you see this chicken breast? If I were to grill this, I want to see how big it is. If I were to grill this guy, okay, it would take forever for the inside to cook, and the very, I would say, ½ inch on the outside would be so dry. This one is half the size. Do you see this? Half the size. However, it's uneven. You can see it's thicker here than it is here. So this one is not going to need much, with the exception of pounding it out. Don't worry, I will wipe the side of this when I'm done. Do not worry, do not panic. I'm only touching the top. I will only pound this because it doesn't need any additional anything, because it's not as thick as that one. So what I do is I place it on a plastic board, cover it with some plastic wrap. You can do parchment, but you know, plastic works better for me here because I need to be able to see it. So I don't want to take it too far. Now, like I said, the bottom is much thinner than the top, so I'm really going to focus on about 3/4 of the chicken breast, and I'm pounding it nice and thin. I'm not slicing it, I'm not butterflying it. I'm going to pound it till it's about ½ inch thick, and it's nice and even. Okay, now you see, what do we have here? We have one even thickness, which is key and so important. It's not too thin, because if you're going to buy really thinly sliced chicken breasts at the grocery store, the ones that are sometimes labeled cutlets, they're great for chicken cutlets, but if you're going to grill them, I'm telling you, they're going to be so dry and so, it's going to be like rubber, because there's not enough space for any moisture to hold, right? So then I just sort of, I do a few stabbings with a fork. This allows the marinade, the flavor to seep right in there, but most importantly, it allows the olive oil to do its job. Now remember, this chicken breast is a big one, okay? And I'm not gonna be able to pound this whole thing because it's just way too thick. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to literally slice it in half, okay? And now I'm gonna have 2 chicken breasts. Both of them are still gonna need to be pounded because you can see thinner here, thicker there. So I'm gonna lay them side by side, give them some space because they will expand as you pound them. And you're just gonna do the same thing you did on the first one. That's it, make them nice and even, not too thin. I'm just gonna do 4 for now. I don't need all of them right now, but I will do the rest later. And now another really key important thing here, and it doesn't just have to do with marinating chicken, it has to do when you're marinating pretty much anything, is choosing a vessel that is just big enough to hold whatever it is that you're marinating, nice and sort of snugly with the marinade so that the marinade has a chance to actually marry with your protein and that it's not, if I were to use a really gigantic bowl, you see, I'm gonna show you this. You see the marinade is like holding on to the sides of the chicken. As it sits, it's gonna sort of do its job of seeping into the chicken breast, and being that the chicken is really sitting and nestling in that acid, it's not gonna lose contact with the acid, therefore it's gonna tenderize the chicken as it sits and marinates. So it's really important. Don't grab a huge bowl and then the marinade's like sliding around and then the chicken's in the middle. It does nothing. What I'm gonna do now is cover this and pop it into the fridge for a few hours. Now I will say the longer you let it sit, the better. For this, I'm actually not gonna keep it that long because I need to film this for you. But when I do this in my normal everyday, I do for a minimum of 4 hours, but you can even do it overnight because the acid will just keep working. And since it's not fish, you don't have to worry about it literally cooking the chicken. I did wipe this down. No fear, do not worry. Wrap it up and pop it in the fridge. All right, so I'm doing this in my indoor grill pan. Obviously, this would be phenomenal on your outdoor grill. A couple of things to keep in mind when you're grilling anything at all, especially on an indoor grill pan. You will want to put this on the highest setting it goes. And what you'll do is you'll caramelize, will burn the natural sugars in the lemon juice and burn the outside of your chicken. Nobody wants that. So we want those beautiful dark grill marks that forms a crust and then the inside's really nice and juicy. And the perfect place for that is right between medium and medium high, but giving the pan a chance to preheat properly. So once it's preheated, I just spray it with some avocado spray, but pure avocado spray, just so that it keeps anything from sticking. You can also just brush a little olive oil. It does exactly the same thing. Now look what's happened over the last bit or so that this was in the fridge. Look at that. That marinade is soaked up into the chicken. You can see it's not swimming around anymore, which is a good sign. And I place them on my grill. It's a good sign. For this thickness, I say you're looking at about 4 minutes per side, never flipping them more than once. You want to put them on, leave them alone. Obviously, different thickness is going to take longer. This will take about 4.5 minutes, and they will be absolutely perfect. The only time I'm going to flip them is when my 4.5 minutes are up and I have to cook the other side. Until then, don't move. Don't touch, nothing. All right. Oh, how gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. That's the kind of chicken I want to see. Perfect. I didn't make this one quite as even, which is okay. But you can see these are perfectly even on all sides. 4.5 minutes on the second side, done. Then very, very, very important when you take them off the heat, place them in the shallow bowl or a plate, cover them with some foil, let them rest for 10 minutes. Very important. So all that moisture and all that juice can stay in the chicken rather than out. All right, let's make the dressing while the chicken takes a nice little nap and rest and gets juicy and delicious. You're gonna take a clove of garlic. This dressing is simply to die for, okay? Very easy. Take some garlic, take some grated ginger. I use this ginger. Don't come for me, it's easy. I'm not worried about it. You need a little bit of sugar, not much, just a little. Every single thing you can absolutely taste, and as you go along, add a little bit more, a little bit less. The recipe will be on laureninthekitchen.com, of course. Rice vinegar, so good, so important, so delicious. Okay, very important ingredient, toasted sesame oil, which is what's gonna give you that really phenomenal deep sesame flavor, like so, like that. And then you're gonna need some flavorless oil. I use avocado oil. You could use extra light tasting olive oil if you want to. Avocado oil, just, it's easy, it's delicious, it works. Now I'm gonna give this a shakeroo. Do a little pinch of salt because it's just not enough soy to season it well. Give it a little shakeroo. You wanna make sure everything is evenly dispersed and combined. Oh, it's gonna be good. I just know it's gonna be good. And then I take, best way to taste a dressing is by using some salad, some leaves. You know what? I'm done. I'm done. That is so delicious. You're gonna wanna make like a triple batch. Adobo. That was right. You're gonna wanna make a triple batch because it's that delicious. To my salad, here's what I'm using because there's a restaurant that we go to, that we've gone to for years and years and years, and they make sort of a similar salad. They have calamari, I use chicken. You could use calamari, quite frankly. They use a mixture of greens, which they chop really fine, I know. And then they use a mix of slaw. So I just combine the two, and it is delicious because it's crunchy, it's got lots of leaves, it's so good. And then some bell pepper. I'm not making a huge amount. This, believe it or not, is gonna be salad for two tonight for Joe and I, because it is delicious and it's fantastic and it's filling with that delicious, perfectly grilled chicken. You really cannot go wrong. But if you want to make a really huge one, may I also suggest adding some chopped romaine for some crunchity crunch. I take a small cucumber. I'm not a fan of regular cucumbers at all. And you could use a seedless cucumber and just dice it, but my absolute favorite cucumbers in the world are these mini little cucumbers. These are where I always buy, and if I'm ever using a different kind of cucumber, rest assured it's because these were sold out. And then I'm gonna add some finely chopped scallions. That just went flying everywhere, but it's okay. Some finely chopped scallions and a little mint. A little mint is just gonna brighten this whole thing up, and it marries with the sesame so unbelievably well. You don't need a lot of it because mint is quite strong, but it's very good here. I'm just actually gonna do these few other leaves because who am I to leave those behind, okay? Delicious. Okay, for the something crunchy. These are called chow mein noodles. They are sold right in the regular grocery section, right where all of the Asian ingredients are in that one specialty item, which I feel so lucky to have in my grocery store because it allows me to grab things that I wouldn't normally grab. And then I will look in that area once a week to see if there's anything new. Joe is king. He's behind the camera smiling because he is king of random. He will go in that aisle and he will buy whatever sauce, whatever noodle, and it's so much fun because then he comes home and then we figure out what to do with it all. I love it. I take some of those and then I take some sesame seeds and I add them right in because I love the crunch. So good. I don't touch it until I add my chicken and I toss everything together. So I'm gonna grab a small cutting board to start slicing the chicken. Now look at this chicken, okay? Let me show you how perfect. You're gonna have to come close. I want you to see what I do. What happens? Look at that juice. You see that dripping down my fingers? It's so hot. It's so hot, but it's delicious. If you are batch cooking and you're making this, say to serve, I don't know, if you're doing batch chicken to do for meal prep or something, don't slice your chicken until you're ready to serve it. It will keep it nice and juicy. It's so good. Let me grab my mapine. I'll grab this one back here because I feel like I have dragged this on long enough because in my life, if I want anything, it's for you to make really good, tasty food. And for you to make really good, tasty chicken breast is at the top of that list because it can be quite boring. I'm just gonna be frank. Add your dressing to your salad. That is so unbelievably delicious. You cannot imagine. I use 2 forks just to stir and toss everything in. Look at how beautiful and colorful. You're gonna wanna double or triple that dressing and eat it all week long. Trust me. Add that. Add your chicken alongside. You can absolutely serve your chicken right on top or right in. A little tiny bit more of that dressing. And because it's me and I love anything sesame, a tiny bit more sesame seeds. And then guess what? Fork, mouth, goodbye. The dressing, I can marry it. Incredible. It's incredible. Go to laurainthekitchen.com for the written recipe. You will be obsessed. I hope you've enjoyed spending time with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.